Hello everybody, welcome. It's time for Atomic Radio Hour episode 321. Why'd I say it like that? 321. Welcome, how are you doing? You look great, as usual. Sorry about last week. I was not here, I had something important I had to take care of, and I really wanted to be able to talk about it, but I can't. Still, legally, I can't. So hopefully next week I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about it. Thank you for joining us. The show is brought to you by the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon. Link in the description below to the Patreon. Also make sure you like and subscribe. How are you? You look great. You look fantastic. Some things I want to talk about today. One of them being PlayStation. So Kyle and I usually watch the State of Plays together, or E3 stuff, and he's been busy, I've been busy, and just, we haven't had a chance to watch any of the events together. Usually the events are happening like stupid early. Like I get to work, and I know Kyle's 2 hours ahead of me, but I get to work and then he's just like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm watching this, here's all the updates, and I'll just get all the updates on Twitter from him. But all the update of the State of Play that I got to really see was that PlayStation showed off their PS5 Pro, which I think is a huge scam. And that they're remaking the first Horizons game in Lego, which is cool, I guess. I think Horizons is such a mid game. It's not bad. Like, it's the definition of mid, not how mid means like, oh, it's bad. Mid means like it's super underwhelming. I played Horizons once. I thought it was neat that it starts in pretty much the part of Colorado that I'm currently in. But other than that, like, it's not... I don't think Horizons is that good of a game. It's okay. It's a real 6 out of 10. It does what it needs to do. The concept is really cool. I remember being, like, harder than it needed to be, too. I don't know. I was not a fan of Horizons. And we're getting a Ghost of Tsushima sequel, which, cool. Didn't play Ghost of Tsushima. Just didn't have any real interest in it. I don't know if it's a good game or a bad game, but like out of a State of Play, that's the three things that I feel like I took away from it. And not even just because Kyle sent it to me, but because it's what I saw on Twitter. And I don't know, that just doesn't feel like a lot for a State of Play. Like it feels like it could have been more, it could have been bigger. I don't know. It like makes me wonder where PlayStation is truly. Like Kyle sent me something that they're making, Rocksteady's making another Arkham game, which I'm a big fan of the Arkham series. It's going to be weird if Kevin Conroy is not doing Batman's voice anymore, but you know, there's still money to be pulled from that well, so they'll take advantage of every corpse they can until they have every dollar available on Earth. And PlayStation's trying to go for from the rumors that I read from what Kyle had sent me, PlayStation is going for the exclusivity deal on it. And that's great. I mean, PlayStation needs an exclusive right now, but is it going to be a true exclusive? Is it going to be a timed exclusive? I'm not going to go out of my way to buy a PlayStation for that game. I don't feel like spending $600 for a Batman game that doesn't even have Batman's correct voice. And knowing the way the video game industry is right now, it's probably going to be Matt Mercer or, I don't know, one of the 6 people that they pick forever. What's the guy's name that plays Nathan Drake? Oh, God, I wish I could remember it. Nolan North, or the dude who does Joel, because it's like the same 5 people. They really want to throw a curveball. They hire Mark Hamill to voice Batman, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know anybody who is dying to get their hands on a PlayStation at this point, the way it was when it first came out, and I don't even know what exclusives do they have? And don't get me wrong, Xbox doesn't have many exclusives, but if I have an Xbox, which I do, I can play 360 games on it. That's a library that I've had for 15 years. I don't know. I'd love to know what you think about this, but I just think PlayStation is in such an awful state. This feels worse than when the PS3 first came out. Like, true and real. This feels like that. And it's kind of scary. But I'd love to know how you feel about it, because I obviously don't feel too tremendous about it right now. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, the lore of this episode. There's some people that I have to thank that support over on the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon. There's a link in the description below if you like the show. From the $1 tier to the $10 tier, your voice, yes, your voice can be heard when I ask a poll question weekly. So these people I have to thank real quick. Starting from the top, I have to start with the OG Noah. Thank you, Noah. After Noah, I have to thank Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. After Marcus, I have to thank Mellow Milhouse. Thank you to Mellow Milhouse. After Mellow Milhouse, I have to thank Captain Lennox. Thank you to Captain Lennox. And after Captain Lennox, I have to thank, last but certainly not least, I have to thank DanishHoundDog. Thank you to DanishHoundDog. Like I said, your support is very much appreciated. I love you guys, and if you want to support the show and even have your voice heard, maybe become a part of the show at the $10 tier, in the description below, there is a link to the Patreon, as well as the Discord and the Twitter and everything else, and subscribe while you're here. Thank you to these fine, fine folks that are on screen currently. I love you. So, this week I wanted to talk about Fallout 4 for numerous reasons. One of them being I don't talk about Fallout 4 enough. And I wanted to talk about something that I thought was fun, that I feel like people want to hear. And there's two characters that came to mind immediately. I've said my things about Fallout 4. I feel like I'm going to say some things again about Fallout 4 when we get through this. But I wanted to talk about two characters in particular. And I wanted to talk about Mama Murphy, Fallout 4's local drug addict, and Minuteman. And I also wanted to talk about Zeke, the leader and the founder of the Atom Cats. So I put it to the Discord, and if you'd like to hear your voice heard when it comes time to choose this week's lore, go ahead and check out the Patreon, link in the description below. I do a poll. You've probably heard this already, just moments ago. But this week, by way of the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon, I bring you the lore on Zeke, the leader, the founder of the Atom Cats from Fallout 4. So Zeke, the founder, the leader of the Atom Cats, can be found in Fallout 4 in the year 2287 in the Commonwealth in Boston. He appears in Fallout 4, and he's also in Fallout Shelter Online, again, a game that I wish we had access to, but is only in China. His special stats are a strength of 8, a perception of 9, an endurance of 8, a charisma of 1, an intelligence of 1, an agility of 8, and a luck of 3. There's also his actual numbers. What I just read are his actual numbers, but his special, his luck is also a 1. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm assuming that has something to do with the coding of the game, that he has like a certain set of special, a certain set of skills, because I remember when Fallout 4 was coming out, Todd said during E3 that they build all of the characters through the character creator. So I'm assuming that's what it means, and then they modify them from there. He's voiced by Max Middleman. And there's a terminal that you can find. It's just Zeke's terminal. And it says, welcome user Topcat when you hack in or sign on. And he writes, The Legend of Zeke, rough ideas / notes. I was born in a tiny leather jacket. Another one says, I grew up in Diamond City, left when I realized a diamond is really just a tilted square, in parentheses, good line, keeping it. Another bullet point says, tell the story about how I fixed up an old vertibird but crashed it into the ocean. That explains why I don't have it anymore. Right? Need a few chapters on power armor, why it's the cat's meow. Oh, and some tips on how to make it really sing. Don't reveal too much. They gotta need you for something. And then there's more notes on the Legend of Zeke, one being story about finding the garage, how I single-handedly slayed a huge pack of ferals to claim it. Another one says how I met and assembled the Atom Cats, how I rescued them from their bad news lives and showed them the way of cool. Also, how I love this kooky crew, but don't get too sappy. A chapter in memory of Eamon Andy, the cat we lost too soon. Andy found all the rockin' tunes that we play in the garage to this day. All caps, use this line, : he will live on in our hearts and in our jukebox. The Atom Cats are a group that I very much enjoy. I get all of my lore. I reference all of my lore. I've played the games, but I reference all of my lore on fallout.fandom.com, the Nukipedia, if you will. The Atom Cats are a collective of individuals who come together for one thing, and that's a love of power armor. It's a love of It's a love of all things. It's a love of pre-war. It's a pre-war culture of hot rod culture that's been adapted to power armor. Fallout 4 definitely has retconned some things in the sense of power armor training was a thing, it wasn't a thing, was a thing, was no longer a thing. For various reasons, whatever, what have you. That's not really important. I'm not really caring about that at this point. What I care about at this point is that's it on Zeke. He references cultural shit of the day. He makes a joke about his jimmies being rustled, which I bet is something you haven't heard since 2014. Welcome to the future of 2024. There's that. There's also, he can fix your power armor and add modifications. Like, that's it. The game doesn't have more writing on the Atom Cats. What was supposed to be, in my opinion, from playing the game, Fallout 4 is tunnel snakes. And scientifically, it's proven by science that scientifically the tunnel snakes scientifically rule. And the Atom Cats, I feel like, fall short. Not just a little bit short, but a lot of it short. Butch DeLoria's backstory is way much more in-depth than Zeke's puddle of nothing that you get from him. That's it. And you have the Atom Cats, you can go do stuff, but even when I cross-reference this on the wiki versus my own experience of playing the Atom Cats, I don't have much memory of playing with the Atom Cats, showing up to the Atom Cats, doing Atom Cat activity. I just remember that you can get the Hot Rod paint set there. They're not a bad faction. They're fun. People love the Atom Cats. There's a reason why Bethesda sells a back patch of the Atom Cats for people. But when their leader is a paragraph of lore, it feels like we're missing something. Butch, there's a lot to be learned about Butch. And I'm just using this as a comparison. Butch, there's a lot to be learned because Butch, you find out that his mom's an alcoholic. He wants to be a hairdresser. Like, even that is more than I know about Zeke. Zeke's story of the vertibird is not a real one. He definitely didn't kill a horde of feral ghouls to claim the garage. It's upsetting to know that there was such a little amount of time put into a character who could have been a fun pocket. I'm trying to even think of like a New Vegas pocket that, like, imagine finding Vicky and Vance, right? When you find them in Vegas, north of where you find them where you hear about them in Prim for the first time, more or less. And then finding those bank robbers, and that's just a small little story. I did a lore segment. I did a piece on the show about it earlier this year, I believe. It's one of my favorite little stories, because I just remember finding it and being like, oh shit, look who's here. The Atom Cats have the potential to do that, but the game just doesn't do it. What I read for you was 3 pages of my own notes, and it's pretty much everything that I took off of a paragraph of notes out of the wiki. But what I do like about the Atom Cats is I feel like the Atom Cats lend themselves so much to fanfic. And now Fallout's cool. It's the cool thing to like Fallout. But I feel like when I was, in that interim between Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4, that era of time, we would fall on to fanfic a lot. I didn't read a ton of it. I didn't watch a ton of it. The Storyteller, which I talked about, I believe last episode or 2 episodes ago, that kind of filled a little bit of that void. And even Nuka Break, I remember watching the beginning of it. I remember watching some of it, but I didn't watch a ton of it. Even the Lanius short film, I don't think I've ever actually seen. I'm not one for fanfic. If it doesn't exist within canon, it just doesn't mean anything to me. That being said, it's not like I haven't dipped into some, and I understand how big fanfic is. For some reason, maybe just because I've always been in the Fallout fandom, it feels like Fallout fanfic has always been bigger than other fanfic. To me, I'm not an Undertale fan. I'm not what's that webcomic with the troll children and they drink Faygo? Why can't I think of the name of this? Anyway, Homestuck. I'm not a Homestuck guy, and I know there's a ton of fanfic about these things. But the Atom Cats lend themselves tremendously to fanfic because there's not a tremendous amount of information, but there's also enough that can just say, okay, here it is, and there it goes. So I hope you've enjoyed, because that's really all I have for this week's lore on Zeke, the leader and the founder of the Atom Cats in Fallout 4. So I'm a little late on this one, but Microsoft has laid off 650 more employees, and this one, the Bradford Exchange. And this one comes to us by way of The Verge by Tom Warren. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Microsoft is laying off around 650 employees in its gaming division today. The latest cuts come after Microsoft laid off 1,900 Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox employees, and the closure of several game studios. Xbox chief Phil Spencer announced the layoffs to employees in an internal memo. Spencer wants to make it clear that no games or devices or experience are being canceled, and no studio has been closed as part of the layoffs today. So, more reason to unionize. Can't just be laid off immediately. It's just such a sad time. Like, I'm not trying to make this like a downer episode, but I said in the beginning how PlayStation, it's like, PlayStation, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, you're right. Are you back on the bottle? Like, what's the problem? Like, why do you feel so distant? Like, why do you feel like you're struggling? And then Microsoft's just like, yeah, we're going to get rid of another 650 people. And that was published, at least I got the tweet from Kyle on September 12th. And that's, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago at this point. And as of the recording of this, I'm recording this on 9/25. So that was an amount of time ago. Do those people have severance packages? Do they have pensions? What happened? Why is it becoming increasingly harder to make video games? And video games aren't even to a standard that they once were. It's just so sad, because it just feels like in America more and more nobody is appreciated for their job. And I feel like that is becoming more and more apparent because of AI, because we're just going to slowly get to a point where people don't need to generate the money. The machines will, and then we get to like universal basic income and all these things that I'm not qualified to talk about. But it's just, here's these things that make billions of dollars, that make people happy. Microsoft bought Bethesda, and before they were even done with the acquisition, they had made all the money back that they spent on it. And then they just start laying off. If it was 1,900 people and then 6, I'm no math magician, but we're at about 2,500 people. It's just sad. Sorry for such a downer episode. I've had a hard week. I hope you've enjoyed. This has been Atomic Radio Hour, the post-nuclear podcast, the show that dives into the wreckage of post-apocalyptia. The intro music is by the one and only Shane Ivers. Link in the description below to his songs, all of his heaters, all of his free stuff, especially Feather Duster, which is the intro that should be playing right now, the intro song for the program. I want to shout out the Patreon once again. Thank you to the Patreon. Shout out to the Redbubble. If you support over there, you can get a logo on a shirt or a hoodie or a hat or a sticker or what have you. Also, follow me on Twitter, the show on Twitter, and Kyle on Twitter. Follow where there are things. There should be a link to this in the description to the Discord as well. I recommend you come hang out there. I think my Twitch is down there. I don't use it very often, but it's there. I love you. I'll be seeing you guys next week. I'll see you soon. I love you. Hopefully something actually happens. Bye! See ya.
Atomic Radio Hour Podcast.
A Ghoulman Entertainment production.